algo? ¿No? ¿En relación a esto? Ah, vale, ok. Vale, perdón, pensaba que era por eso. ¿Norma, tú sí? No, vale. Pero, ¿tú quieres preguntar sobre este tema o no? Ah, vale, venga.
Pues puntualmente quería, no sé si es...
No, está bien.
Puntualmente sobre eso porque es cierto que no sé, creo que habías puesto el ejemplo con México, como en el resto de Latinoamérica, las capas más altas de las generaciones cuidan a los más chicos, pero no sé si es una generalidad lo que cuenta que en Jackson, por favor, no. No sé si es una generalidad que las personas mayores puedan seguir manteniendo una vida, porque lo que ocurre normalmente en Latinoamérica es que las personas, en la medida que se hacen mayores, se van haciendo cada vez más, suena feo decirlo, como cuidan, transmiten, pero también se van volviendo un objeto más decorativo de la casa que otra cosa. Dejan de lado los espacios externos en las calles, en los espacios sociales, y participan muy poco. Entonces, esa es mi pregunta: ¿cómo hacen eso para que las personas mayores sigan teniendo una vida social activa? Que varía mucho.
I lost.
How do you do in order for the older people at your community to keep active and participating of the community?
Because you said,
Because you said you stay at home.
You put the example of the Mexican tradition, and he says that sometimes in Mexico, old people usually stay at home and progressively are not involved anymore in these organizations or political or community spaces. Yes, and is it the same in Jackson, or is it something that you work on?
Good question. Not consciously. We do a lot of activities for the elderly. But I can't say like it's oh, I can't.
If you want
I'm
to
thinking.
If you want, you can use this.
No,
one
it's
if you
okay.
go.
It's okay. The most of that, I would say, is actually done by churches in our community, right? Where there's very conscious and deliberate activities for the elderly. We do a lot of things, but it's more, in terms of what we do, it's more, let's make sure there's space for the elderly. So it's like inclusion into what we do, but specific types of inclusion for mobility, for noise, different things like that. We do it, but the churches do that consciously and deliberately. And they kind of have to at this point in time, because most of their membership is over 50. Young people are not going to church, and that's just in general now and more in the United States. But it's also, if you would have come to the black community 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, the predominant institution of everything would have been the church. It's not like that anymore. But for now, to answer your question, the group that's doing all the social activities, things like one of the big things that's big in the black community is playing cards, right? So they organize card tournaments. They organize domino games. Yeah. They take people to the casinos. So the churches do that. Yeah.
Bueno, se quedó como pensando a ver si conscientemente lo hacían, y lo que dice es que si bien hacen actividades puntuales, sobre todo en relación a inclusión, de movilidad, de los ruidos y demás, sobre todo en eso, quienes más se encargan de esos espacios de actividades con las personas mayores son las iglesias, claro, y dice que de alguna manera las iglesias es lo que tienen que hacer porque si no, no tienen gente. Entonces, la mayor parte de la gente que está en las iglesias es mayor de 50 años y que a su vez aclara que para las comunidades negras, hace 30 o 40 años la iglesia era la centralidad y actualmente no lo es de las actividades comunitarias. Lo que hacen es cosas que son actividades como juegos que son de interés, como jugar a las cartas, dominó, los llevan al casino, they take them to casino, as you said. Ese tipo de actividades es la que hacen como agentes socializantes para estas personas.
¿Quieres tú?
Iglesia, que como lo ha dicho él, que yo tenía una pregunta sobre la iglesia y como ahora la sacaba a relucir, era pues para seguir. Yo tenía entendido que la iglesia en las comunidades afroamericanas era muy importante, era un agente social con mucho peso. Y entonces lo que te iba a preguntar es, ¿cómo os relacionáis con la iglesia? Ahora acabas de decir que antes era el centro de todo, ahora no lo es, pero ¿dónde está? O sea, ¿dónde se ubica? ¿Cómo os relacionáis con ella?
Yeah. We have diverse relationships with churches in our community. So I will say this, which may sound interesting, but it's true. Part of why we exist is because we have a symbiotic relationship with a church. There's a church right across the street from us, like our main center. It's called Stupot. And we have hardly nothing in common with them other than that we exist on the same street and both of us have no intention on going anywhere. So we share a common interest in this community, right? Now, they've been there a lot longer than we have. They've been there basically, I think, 1957, I think is when they first set up their institution, the first part of their institution. They own half the block. We own the other half of the block. How the relationship started, they are the largest homeless service provider in the state of Mississippi. By far, the largest homeless service provider. Because they do that, and because they've done that so long, and because they've kept true to their principles of doing that, the property value in that little section of the community is low because nobody wants to move around. The developers don't want to be around homeless people. So almost every business that has come in before us in the space, the building that we bought, they left. They didn't normally, they'd be there 5 years and then they leave, they move out, and they call and complain, about Stupot and all the people come to Stupot. They came to us after about a year of us being, we had relationships, but like the first real conversation was like the main pastor. He came over to us and said, I want to appreciate that you've never called the cops on us. That was the real beginning of a conversation. And we said, well, that we're a bunch of crazy radicals. You've heard this about us, and it is true. So we want to tell you directly, yes, we have communists. Yes, we have anarchists. Yes, we have revolutionary nationalists. Yes, we have people who practice Africa. Yeah, yeah, and we have a principle. We don't call the police. So we're telling you we won't call the police. Now we will deal with contradictions ourselves, but we don't call the police. And then we had a real conversation about we've done work with folks in your community. And we have to tell you, we don't like the fact that you make people go to church before you give them food. That we think that's disrespectful. And it took them about 1.5 years, but they stopped. They don't do that anymore, right? And we are now very clear that we protect each other, right? And we both have a clear agreement. We're not going to sell any property, and you're not going to sell any property. And so that means the forces who are in our, like, so if you, it was to line it up, here's downtown, here's a freeway, here's our community. So we're right on the outskirts of downtown. And the main street that goes to the zoo, which is one of the only tourist kind of attractions in town, it's on our street, Capitol Street. That's the Balagoon Center, our center, and their main thing is on Capitol Street. There's a public plan about gentrifying this whole corridor, this whole street. Us being a solid unified block means that they can't do what they want to do. They have to try to go around this. So we have unity. I'm not selling, you're not selling. What can we do together, even though we don't have the same political ideology, philosophy, none of that? What can we do to be good neighbors, and how do we support each other? It's working out great. Now, they're not going to change their politics, and we're not going to change our politics, but we know how to live with each other. We know how to respect each other. We know how to work with each other. So in that sense, it's going great, like really great. But then there's some right-wing churches that we are totally at war with. Right? There's a philosophy, or what they a right-wing philosophy called prosperity gospel, which is now real big in the black church and a lot of black churches throughout the United States, and it's going to Africa, because I've been to a couple of places and like, oh, y'all need to get rid of those folks. But it's this notion that if you're a good Christian, God will reward you with wealth. And that your purpose is to attain wealth, on earth. I don't know where and how they come up with. I don't know what Bible they're reading from, but that's what they get. And some of them are very close to developers in our community, so we're at war with them, like open and obvious conflict with them. So it depends, like it's not like we have one set of orientation. Like each church is different, and we approach each church differently. We're very close to most of the masjids or the mosque in town. We have a fair number of Muslims in our community, and we're actually historically we're actually much more closer to the Muslims because the Black Liberation Movement is highly influenced from the 60s and 70s, highly influenced by Islam, like from Malcolm X and other folks. So we're very close to them. I myself was raised a Muslim. I'm not a practicing Muslim, but I learned how to do all the prayers, and I don't drink alcohol, so that there's some things that I still retain. So we're close with them pretty much uniformly, and then there's folks who practice voodoo and practice contemplé and practice santeria. They don't have a lot of space to practice, and so they use a lot of our spaces, which has brought a lot of criticism of us from the right-wing Christians. And they call us everything from devil worshipers, like on the news, those people are devil worshipers, like literally, like quite a lot. And they call us sodomites, right? Because, we have a LGBTQ association. We have a fair number of trans members who are visible leaders in the work. And so, we're at war with like the Christian right? But the Christian left, we're great friends with.
Madre mía, qué entrada.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Entonces, en relación a la pregunta sobre la relación y el lugar que tiene la iglesia en relación con ellas, es claro, que tienen una relación, por ejemplo, en particular con una iglesia que está cruzando la calle de donde están. Entonces, esa iglesia está desde 1957. Y la nomina además izquierdosa esa iglesia, porque después habla de otras iglesias que son de derecha. Pero en esta iglesia, what's the name of the church?
The name of the organization is Stupa.
Stupa.
And it's Christ's First Church.
Okay. Con esa iglesia han logrado construir una relación de buenos vecinos y de trabajar en conjunto. Por ejemplo, por varias cosas, porque son vecinos, porque están enfrente. Esa iglesia tiene toda la cuadra y ellos tienen la otra parte. Entonces esto, por un lado, para la especulación inmobiliaria, para la compra de territorios, es como vos no vendas, yo no vendo, entonces acá nadie se mete. Y a su vez dice que gracias a que está esa iglesia ahí, es que ellos están ahí. ¿Por qué? Porque esa iglesia, una de las actividades, una de las propuestas que tiene es atender a las personas en situación de calle. Entonces, como es un lugar donde hay muchas personas en situación de calle, entonces no se quiere comprar. Los precios bajan porque nadie quiere ir a vivir ahí. Entonces, eso es uno de los motivos por los que pudieron, me imagino, you bought the land there because it was cheaper, the land, the house, whatever, yeah. Entonces, that's the part of it. Yeah, the first part you said, yeah. Después tuvieron una conversación. ¿Por qué? Porque mucha gente llamaba para denunciar porque había muchas personas en situación de calle cerca. Entonces un día what's the chief of the church? You said what's el ministro. Sí. Pastor, bueno, perdón, porque no tengo mucha cultura.
Eclesiástica.
More precise, pastor. Ok, entonces el pastor llamó para hablar con ellos porque decía, para agradecerle que nunca habían llamado a la policía. Y ahí le dijeron, bueno, sí, seguramente tenemos muchas maneras de entender el mundo distinto. Acá hay anarquistas, revolucionarios, qué sé yo, pero una cosa que tenemos en común es que no vamos a llamar a la policía porque con la policía está todo mal, ¿no? Entonces, y eso, si bien podemos ver el mundo de maneras distintas y tenemos esa contradicción, podemos convivir más allá de eso. Y una de las cosas que pasó es que le dijeron, una de las cosas que nos rompe la vista es que ustedes, a la iglesia, ¿no? Ustedes, antes de darle un plato de comida a una persona, les hagan ir a tener misa. Entonces le dijeron eso y le tomó un año y medio a la iglesia cambiar eso y ya no le piden, o sea, sirven la comida sin que tengan que ir a la misa. Seguimos. Entonces tienen como un acuerdo en ese sentido a través de una conversación. Bien, después como esto, más allá de las diferencias, tienen una relación de vecinos que trabajan juntos. También explicaba como la situación de cómo está distribuida ahí la tierra, que es como que si acá está el centro de la ciudad, decía, por el medio pasa la autopista y allá está donde están Jackson Corporation y la iglesia. Entonces, por eso, si no venden nada ahí, tienen como un gran, ¿no? Un poco hablaba de eso, un gran territorio de protección entre las dos organizaciones, digamos. Pero lo que sí está mal con otras iglesias. Por ejemplo, hay una que se llama, una de derecha que se llama Prosperity Gospel, que con ellos sí está todo mal, o sea, porque evangélicas, claro, que están en Estados Unidos, pero también han expandido África, el estado ahí y ha visto eso. ¿Qué más? Después, en su comunidad hay una comunidad importante musulmana. Él incluso ha sido criado, aunque no practica de manera musulmana. Y esa relación también tiene que ver con las influencias de los 60 y los 70 de los movimientos afro. Y entonces, pero también hay otras comunidades, Contemplé, Santería y otras que no tienen espacios donde hacer sus prácticas, entonces ceden el espacio de Jackson para que lo hagan. Entonces también estas otras iglesias y supongo que otras gentes denuncian como que ahí hay adoradores del diablo, sadomitas, porque también tienen comunidades LGTBQ, bueno, y todo eso. Entonces, como eso. Entonces está todo bien con esta iglesia en particular, porque han aprendido a convivir, pero como con las otras están todas... Claro.
Bueno, al menos tienen una estrategia común porque
Yeah.
tienen que defender un territorio, ellos no van a vender, ellos tampoco, se van a quedar ahí, o sea, que es como van, ¿en qué podemos entendernos? Pues en esto tiramos para adelante.
Y con la iglesia estas evangélicas pues tienen una guerra abierta y pública y que no pasa nada porque es así, porque son muy contrarios y no tienen ningún punto en común. Y a las otras que están, iba a decir menos mainstream, estas santerías,
Más minoritarias.
estas minoritarias les dan incluso espacio y que eso les provoca muchas críticas desde el cristianismo.
¿Quieres? Por fin, Francisco.
Así ahora. Ah. Me hace ilusión preguntarle en inglés. I wanted to ask you, since you didn't mention this morning, not this afternoon, about how do you understand or what's your vision about the role of culture in all your ecosystem, since we understand that culture is one of the main places for socialization. You before said that we are socialized in a hierarchical society, and we also understand that we have to regain the means of symbolic production as well as material production, so we can self-represent our own communities from our points of view and the way we see the world, and to build relationships that take care of the common good instead of being productive for the capitalism and so on. So, and I wanted particularly to ask if you have also autonomous cultural institutions like co-ops, but well, all this field of culture in relation to the ecosystem. Si queréis me traduzco a mí mismo. En breve, sí. No, le preguntaba por qué rol juega la cultura en todo el ecosistema de Cooperation Jackson, entendiendo que la cultura es uno de los principales lugares de socialización y de aprender otros valores distintos a los de la sociedad capitalista tal y cual. Y también si ellos tienen como instituciones propias autónomas y si la producción simbólica autónoma de representaciones propias de las comunidades juega un papel en toda esta movida que tienen ahí montada.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, because this is one of the things that is like water for a fish. You know, I'm surrounded by it all the time, so I sometimes forget. You know, unlike most black people in the United States, I actually live in an area surrounded by my culture. So sometimes I forget that where I'm at, my culture is the mainstream, right? I don't live in a minority kind of relationship in the internal life of my community. But that being said, we come from a politics which says culture is a weapon, right? And with us, that's also very associated with memory and history, right? That those two things go together. We have some kind of cultural activity several times a week. So it's interesting. I haven't really talked about that too much, but like we have film festivals, we have cookouts, we have barbecues. Once a month, part of the community does like a little drag show, kind of, you know, like there's stuff that's always going on. And so I'm just kind of constantly surrounded by it. I don't particularly, you know, my role, I'm not the organizer of those things, so I go and I hang out when I have time, kind of thing. But I know it's very important for the mental health of our community and for our members to feel united, to feel loved and embraced, and so it's important. It's very important in what we do. I would say that probably the most, how would you say, offensive, like being on the offense, is we do a lot of seasonal festivals, and we do, graffiti on damn near everything that we own, and we do festivals, graffiti festivals. So like every 2 years, all of the walls look different. So we have one coming up in next year, 2024. So if you come to Jackson now, you see most of our property, there's like these big murals for everything. They'll all look different by next summer, right? So, because another generation of artists are going to come in that, and we try not to do the same artists talk. And like, I know you, I'm not going to pay you to come listen to you perform. I can go to your house and listen to you perform, so I'm not going to pay you. Yeah. Right. Cool. Yeah, like we just do that all the time. Why am I going to pay you? So in that part, probably, I think people just figure that's not going to work. But what we have done is a couple of different times, some of the young rap folks, a couple of folks, kind of more like individual projects, have taken them on tours, and they've made money on tour. And those who do that work, they collectivize those resources and distribute it amongst themselves. But there's not like a need, I think, at this point in time to like, let's form a co-op and do all this formal structure kind of stuff. I don't think there's really a need for that. So we've done that, and going to like keep doing that kind of stuff. So today, in fact, what people are bothering me about, we're launching. Today is yesterday was Malcolm X's birthday, and in our political tradition, Malcolm is a very important person, perhaps the most important. So we do stuff every year. So every year, there's some Malcolm X festival, activity, celebration, watching videos, kids giving speeches, reciting his speeches and stuff like that. That's going on in Jackson, in New Orleans, yesterday and today, right? As a backdrop. But today is the launch of our comrades and co-conspirators in New Orleans. They're launching a campaign to reopen their center. Cooperation Jackson owns the center because they asked us to buy it for them. They didn't have the resources to buy it. So today is the coming out party, and they chose specifically to do it on Malcolm X's birthday, right? Which was yesterday, but it's the weekend now. So that's going on right now as we speak, and it's a cultural activity. It's not a march, it's not a demonstration, it's a cultural activity where folks are going to listen to some Malcolm and, party and drink and smoke and, hang out and, but the point of it, I want you guys to understand, it is a demonstration. That it's supposed to have a political impact because it's letting folks know who have started to gentrify that neighborhood that the forces of resistance are back. That's what the point of it is. And we're reclaiming the neighborhood, and how do you do that? You first start with culture and memory. So we have we buy
we spend some time together. So
we buy a lot of land. As you heard, we're still buying as much land. So even if we don't intend to buy land that becomes available in our community for sale, every single piece we call about. And we have a strategy. The first call, we have a white person call, whoever is selling the land, right? And you can, in our country and context, in a general sense, you can kind of tell who's white and who's black by how they speak, right? So we have a white person call and get the price and know the history and the condition. Then a couple of hours later or a day later, we have a black person call and get the history and the price. And always, it's a 25% difference. They charge black people 25% more on property. So part of what we do is then we show up with when we go to buy it, if we choose to buy it, we show up with the same black person and white person who was on the call, and be like, we are actually working together and we're taking the white price, right? That's how we're going to do this. But why I bring this up? So I wanted you to understand the context. So there's a property that we are now in the process of buying. We called on the beginning of last year, like in the end of last year, December. We called, and one of my white comrades, Thaddeus, is on the phone talking to him, and the guy says, the property values in this neighborhood are pretty rough. There's a fair amount of crime, which is bullshit. But then he goes off, and it's something we had never heard. But there's a lot of new activity in the community, and these people there's all these new art projects and beautification projects, and then we realize he's talking about us. Yes, he's talking about us. And it's like, okay, this bastard is raising the price of property because of what we have done. So now we have mixed feelings, like, whoa, wait a minute. This is not what we intended in any form or fashion. So we need to maybe rethink this kind of thing, right? And so now I will say this, and I hope it doesn't get me or you in any trouble. Some of the young guys have taken, it's not an organizational strategy, so don't get it twisted, but folks have taking automatic weapons and just firing them in the sky, like almost every night now, to make it sound as if the neighborhood is too dangerous that nobody. So that's art. So that it drops the property value and keeps it low. That this neighborhood is too dangerous to live in.
Okay.
So we'll see if it works.
Yeah.
She was into that. She's not doing it, but she was
supporting.
really with it. Yeah, to lower the price.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay, so, entonces. Hola. Bueno, entonces lo que dice es que él se siente algunas veces como que es un pez en el agua porque en realidad está rodeado, por supuesto, de actividades y de cultura. Y aclara que para él su cultura es su mainstream, su cultura mainstream, porque está rodeado de eso, entonces no es que es otra. Pero, hola. Entendiendo desde una mirada política, entendiendo la cultura como un arma, y ahora termina con esto y es buenísimo lo del arma, literal, la cultura como un arma, hablan del valor de la cultura para elaborar procesos de memoria y de historia. Entonces, por ejemplo, él comenta que hay muchas actividades culturales a lo largo de la semana, hay festivales, barbacoas, también hay shows de drags y otras cosas más, que él no organiza eso, pero que sí asiste y que entiende que eso está pasando. Pero en concreto, de manera más ofensiva, lo que hacen es festivales, por ejemplo, de grafitis, y tienen cada 2 años festivales de grafitis, entonces grafitean todo lo que es las propiedades de la organización. Bueno, y también por un lado eso, y luego acá se abrió un debate a raíz de eso, porque bueno, igual ahora lo decimos, pero acuérdense de esa parte que se abrió ahí. Y lo que dice es que por ejemplo, habla de las cooperativas culturales, que en realidad no funcionó como cooperativa. Sí funciona, entiende que funciona mejor como asociación, por lo menos en Jackson, porque el consumo y la producción o los usos de la cultura, no sé qué término usar ahí, el consumo de la cultura en Jackson se da de una manera que es como, bueno, vos tocás, tenés una banda, tocás, yo voy a escucharte a tu casa, ¿para qué te voy a pagar para escucharte si es lo mismo? Entonces no entienden que haya una necesidad de ese tipo de organización. Pero lo que sí hacen, por ejemplo, es proyectos individuales de music, individual project music that they make tours and you finance them, right? You said, how you do?
Raperos, ¿no?
Rappers.
Algunos
No, you don't.
raperos,
But they do? You support them?
We don't totally finance it.
Okay. You supported, yeah, okay. Entonces hay proyectos individuales, sobre todo de raperos, que hacen giras, tours, y cuando vuelven de alguna manera también retribuyen a la comunidad. Pero, por ejemplo, ayer fue birthday of Malcolm X, you said, yeah? El aniversario del nacimiento de Malcolm X, que es de mucha importancia para su comunidad. Y entonces, en el marco de eso, se hizo el lanzamiento y acá capaz vos tenés más idea de esta cooperativa de New Orleans que están apoyando ellos, que dijo que lanzaron ahí. Bueno, hay una cooperativa que ayudaron a impulsar, que hoy mismo, al otro día del cumpleaños, se lanza la apertura de esa cooperativa. Entonces, ahí va. Entonces ahí fue la pregunta, bueno, la pregunta no, compartir la sensación de sentimientos encontrados, porque cuando habló, por ejemplo, de todo el tema de los grafitis, ¿no? Del uso de los grafitis para eso y cómo es vista acá. Entonces, lo que comentó es que para comprar una tierra, ¿no? Una propiedad, se llama. Y entonces lo que han podido investigar es que cuando llama una persona blanca, que es muy fácil de distinguir por la forma que se habla, cuando llama una persona blanca tiene un descuento del 25%, o lo que es lo mismo decir que si llama una persona afro, le cuesta 25% más, la misma propiedad. Entonces, ¿qué han hecho? Claro. Entonces llaman blancos, pero no solo eso, sino que llaman blancos y personas afro. Las dos. Entonces después van con las dos y le dicen, mira, a esta persona le diste más barato, pero estamos trabajando juntos. Para lo mismo. Entonces, lo que pasó es que empezaron querían comprar una propiedad, entonces llamaron y le decían, sí, bueno, es un barrio que es un poco peligroso, pero bueno, también están pasando muchas actividades culturales, se está quedando más lindo el barrio, y empezaron a relatar cosas y se dieron cuenta que estaban hablando de las cosas que hacían ellos. Entonces lo que hicieron, y ahí ya lo conversaron un poquito ahí, es que un grupo de gentes jóvenes, youngsters, informally, empezaron compraron armas. They bought weapons, ¿no? Claro. No. Everybody has it. It's a culture. It's a culture, yes. Entonces compraron armas y empezaron a dispararla de noche, cuestión de hacer pensar que era un barrio peligroso. Y así bajar los precios. Y decimos que también es una práctica artística. Es una artistic practice.
Selecta.
Disculpa. Well, I'll try to go fast. I basically have two questions. The first question is about the gun culture in North America. I mean, you won't call the police. Mm-hmm. So, are you making like law enforcement by your own? So, are you becoming the Homeland Security Service, like another co-op service or collective service on Cooperation Jackson? This is the first question about how you deal with the gun culture and the gun structural situation that is radically different from what we have in Europe. And the other question is about the new African independence movement. It's kind of some questions that comes to my head when you talk about how you gather a lot of people to concentrate, to focus all the energy and capacities and facilities in one barely point. It's how did you make to gather so much people from so much parts of the United States in just one point, and more else in one poor point, one of the poorest point of the south of the United States, how you make people who is engaged on that project, on the new African movement, independence movement, to go where they have no job, or difficultly, hardly they are going to find a job. Even some of your members are moving to Houston half of the year to work. So is that new African independence movement like black identity as a vector of gathering? I ask this because I read about how you get inspired on Mondragon, on Basque National Liberation Movement, and others. When you talk about murals, you do in your houses. I thought about Irish Republican movement. They do a lot of murals in their own houses, in their own towns.
That's right.
I ask where that vector of sense of community gets so politic to being the vector of gathering all the people. So my two questions is that vector of gathering and the gun culture, how you deal with that. Thank you. Bueno, si faig la traducció... Sí, disculpeu. Bueno, ràpidament el que li estava preguntant... En català em compreneu tots? No, disculpa. Bueno, que... Perdona. No, le preguntaba primero cómo gestionan el tema de la cultura con las armas. Ahí todo el mundo lleva armas. Cuando dices que no llamas a la policía delante de un problema, que nos lo contaba hace un momentito, entonces, ¿qué haces? Porque quiere decir que hay un problema de inseguridad en la calle. Muy rápidamente se convierte en una situación con armas. Hay una tradición del law enforcement, es decir, las propias gentes de un barrio se pueden organizar con armas para apoyar a la policía. ¿Cómo se hace en la versión de Cooperative Jackson esta gestión comunitaria de que la gente salga a la calle y asegurar que no pasa nada y que si pasa algo, pues alguien gestiona? Y la otra pregunta es que el proyecto de Cooperative Jackson viene de un tema que se llama el New African Independence Movement, y de hecho inspirado en el movimiento vasco Mondragón de Liberación Nacional y también el movimiento irlandés de Liberación Nacional, con el tema de los murales, el tema de crear un tema identitario propio, cultural, como vector para unir gente también de orígenes diferentes, alrededor de un proyecto de construcción de comunidad solidaria y de economía social y solidaria. Y cómo este factor es el que lleva, él decía que juntaban gente de todos los Estados Unidos para irse hasta Jackson, pero Jackson es como la parte pobre de Estados Unidos y le estás pidiendo a gente, a miembros de tu movimiento del New African Independence Movement, que por ejemplo viven en Nueva York o en Los Ángeles, donde hay trabajo y se vive bien, de ir hacia un lugar pobre. Es decir, para que esta gente se mueva tiene que haber una motivación extra. Y si el tema es ese vector de comunidad y de agregar una comunidad alrededor de una idea de sentido de comunidad o de identidad, ¿cómo eso se gestiona?
Yes.
Some guys randomly just shut up to the sky to influence on the land price. There were real bullets.
Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. Well, let me. How would you approach this? Well, let me start by personalizing it. I don't view the culture of gun possession in the black community as a problem. That is situated in us having to defend ourselves from white terror for as long as we have been held captive in North America. And the times in which we have been most terrorized is when we have been incapacitated from being able to defend ourselves, right? When we have the means to defend ourselves, the terror kind of stops. When you disarm yourself, the terror increases. So, like one thing is they won't tell you in like a lot of the history books, but I want you to look it up. During the end of Reconstruction, this was in the 1870s. Reconstruction officially ended in 1877, right? With what was called the Hayes-Tilden Compromise. The Hayes-Tilden Compromise was basically a Democrat won the general election, but a Republican actually wound up taking office. And the compromise was the Democrats said, we will not assume the office of the presidency if you allow all the remaining southern states to re-enter the Union on terms favorable to the southern states. The Republicans sold out and said, cool, we'll do that. That was in 1877. The next thing that they did, they'll tell you this in the history books, that they removed all of the federal troops from the South in 1877, 1878, and 1879. Well, who were those federal troops? My ancestors, black people. So the United States government, the northern government, came to the South and said, give me all the guns that we gave you and good luck. We then had another 80 years of slavery under a new name because they disarmed us and then left us to the dogs. And the dogs whooped our ass for a long time, right? So when you look at the history of black townships in our country, or black communities that tried to defend themselves, like another one, if we would look at the history of Tulsa, Oklahoma, my family was fair and got burnt out. This was in 1921. This is why some of my family moved to California. There was another situation where they came in a couple of years earlier and took all the guns out of the black community and allowed this black community to be burnt to the ground, literally. So how does my community understand that? No, never again. Never again. So you got a weapon, I got weapons. You cross that river, you got ill intent, we're going to meet you with ill intent. Point blank, period. No questions asked. So to me, that's not a, you know, when they come say, oh, there need to be guns taken out of the black community, my response is kind of like the white right. Yeah, good luck. Try that. Because the last time that happened, the last couple of times that it happened, we know what the results are. And so there's this debate around, the liberals have it, the white liberals in particular. You know, there's a mass shooting or something like that, and there are too many of the United States. I'm not saying that there aren't. But we need to take the weapons away. So you telling me that I'm supposed to trust you, the United States government, when y'all got more weapons than anybody on the planet combined? That's foolishness, right? Like only a fool allows their enemy to dictate their security. So my answer, and the answer of our movement is, okay, we will disarm when you disarm, right? Get rid of that tank, get rid of that, you know, yeah, dude, when you get rid of that, yeah, like when y'all do that, we cool. It's not like we want to have this stuff. We got it because we got to deal with you, right? And we know what you are capable of. This is the important part that links to culture and memory, right? So, black culture is a culture for folks to fully understand. U.S. black culture is a culture of how to enjoy yourself in the middle of misery. Like, you are not going to define my life by your oppression. I'm going to find some way to be happy, to enjoy myself in the face of all this pain, suffering, and misery. Because that's not going to define me. Yeah, that's not going to define me. That is the beauty of my culture, I would say par excellence of anything. It's a world culture, but Yeah. So that's not just a gun rights thing. That the way that that's framed is ahistoric. That's the problem with that. Right? It's an ahistoric thing. We live like the one of the things to understand, like if you hear a lot of success in our work, you know part of what makes our work so successful? We're very clear about who our oppressors are because they make it clear. Right? If you come to Mississippi, or like when you come visit me, I'll take you into my house and I'm gonna turn on right-wing radio. And I just want you to listen to it for like 2 hours to see how much of it you can stomach. Yeah, to see how much of it you can stomach and listen to what they're talking about. So if you think Trump sounds bad, right? Trump is light compared to the folks that are on the news and on the radio in my community that I listen to every day. And mind you, this is how small this place is, Mississippi. It's only 2.5 million people in the entire state. And the state is bigger than Belgium and I think the Netherlands combined. So it's not a small place, right? There's just not that many people. So the grand wizard of the Ku Klux Klan, the head of the skinheads, I know where they live. I know where their house is. And guess what? They know where mine is. So we don't play. No, I'm very clear. At some point, if certain conditions switch, they coming across that river, and they know where to go, and they already have targets of where they want to go, right? And I've been in the gun shop, right? There's some of the gun shops, particularly during the pandemic. I've been in the gun shops, and they actually have an open conversation with me. We coming across the river one day. That is an open conversation. So the beauty of Mississippi on a certain level is, right, I don't have to guess whether you love me or not. I'm very clear. If you get the opportunity, you will kill me, right? And so, like, I'm not going to sit back and be like, well, I'm just going to hope and pray something never bad happens. No, I'm going to get my ass prepared, and I'm going to get my community prepared for the day and if and when that river gets crossed. And increasingly in our country, the conditions are getting so bad, it's a matter of when that river gets crossed, not if, right? Because the U.S. is headed towards a civil war. Don't have no mistakes about that. It's heading in that direction. Let me stop there. Didn't answer the other question. To move. Who should move, right? It was those levels of conversation. But it was a general agreement, yes, we think this is the primary thing to do in this particular period of time. And since we agree upon that, now we have a responsibility to make it materially possible. That was the decision. Now, the other part of your question would take too long to answer, but I will say this. The movement that I come out of had relationships with folks in the 7 counties, right? Had some little relationships with folks in the Basque Country, right? It's an internationalist movement, right? Like, our thing is we are black, and it's our responsibility to liberate ourselves and our community first, but we're not racialists. That's not who we are. That's not ever what we are about. That's not what the New African Independence Movement is about. Anybody and everybody could live in a New African Republic. The point is dismantling the American empire. That's the point. Yeah. Yes.
Bueno, Guadalupe. ¿Cómo lo hacemos? Está dibujando. ¿Qué? Sugar levels are going down.
No, not really.
No? Okay. You have some water here.
Bueno, él habla del valor de la posesión de armas para la comunidad negra, que es que tiene mucho que ver con la capacidad de defenderse ante un Estado que oprime a través de lo mismo, exacto. Entonces, pero que además hay toda una tradición y ahí hizo todo un desarrollo histórico desde dónde viene, de 1870, que nos invita a buscar esa información que nos sale en todos los libros. Que en 1870, hacia el fin de la reconstrucción, bueno, ahí ya se batallaban los republicanos y los democráticos qué hacer con lo que pasaba, y las comunidades negras una y otra vez se les dio las armas y luego se las sacó, ¿no? Y lo que pudieron entender de todo este proceso y sucesos sucesivos es que cada vez que les retiraban las armas, que además que, ¿no?, te doy y te saco, también lo manifestó, pero cada vez que le retiraban las armas era un estado de terror, ¿no?, de miedo y de opresión, sí, pero... por ahí, hasta una parte. ¿Hasta ahí? Sí. Vale. Y a su vez, él lo invita al compa, y supongo que a quienes querramos a ir, a que si vamos a la casa de él y escuchamos la radio que escuchan de la derecha, que eso es mucho peor que escuchar a Trump, que Trump es livianito en comparación a lo que tienen que escuchar. Que son 2.5 millones de personas, pero que en el estado, de la ciudad, que es porque yo me pierdo cuando la ciudad, no, el estado, el state, ¿no? 2.5 million in the state. Y bueno, y lo que bueno, claro, pero cerrando con lo de las armas, perdón, algo que me parece que lo dijo como de manera bastante categórica y clara, es que solo un estúpido, a full, permite que su enemigo tenga las armas, ¿no? Sí, bien.
Que la comunidad se va a desarmar siempre que los blancos se desarmen.
Claro,
la policía
exacto.
se desarme, en cuanto ellos se desarmen, todo el mundo se desarma, pero
Exacto.
no antes. Entonces, ¿no?, que ellos decidieron que en tanto que los blancos iban a utilizar cualquier oportunidad para asesinarles, la decisión no era quedarse en casa y esperar que no sucediera nada rezando, sino preparar a la comunidad y armarse para poder plantar batalla, ¿no? Y él decía, si tú cruzas este río, yo también voy a cruzar este río. Cuando tú lo dejes, yo lo dejo. Pero no voy a ser el primero porque ya lo hemos hecho 2 veces y ha salido muy mal. Si quieres lo hacemos y verás cómo vuelve a salir mal. Entonces, entiendo yo que a partir como de la historia de la relación de las comunidades negras en Estados Unidos con las armas y en contextos de guerra, también es como esa línea, ¿no?, que tiene que ver con la relación de las armas y la comunidad negra en la actualidad. Vale. Sí.
Y dice que la belleza de Missisipi es que tenés bien claro quiénes son tus enemigos de una manera, quiénes, ¿no? Como si tenés una oportunidad vas a cruzar, pero yo estoy preparado para eso, ¿no? El tema no es cómo, sino cuándo. Y eso en relación a la primera parte de la pregunta y la segunda pregunta. ¿Qué era la segunda pregunta?
¿Cómo habían conseguido atraer a personas negras a Jackson?
Lo que dijo es que justamente... Sí. Vale. Claro, pero eso tenía 2 partes por eso. La primera parte tiene que ver con que no tuvo que ver con... Lo que pasó fue que tuvo que ver con un cambio de las prioridades, es decir, que lo que proponían era a la organización que si tú no podías venir, que se pensara estratégicamente quién iba a ir, ¿no? Que se resolviera de manera asamblearia quién iba a ir y que los aportes económicos también fueran en esa medida porque era una cuestión estratégica de que mover gente hacia Jackson. Invertir, exacto, sobre todo, claro, eso. Bien, sí. Y bueno.
Que no se organizan en términos de, bueno, que son como un movimiento internacionalista y que entienden que la liberación del pueblo negro no tiene que ver solo como para construir una nación negra solo para negros, sino con derrotar el Estado imperialista americano. Entonces es como que, ¿no? Yo he entendido algo así, pero igual. No, como que lo que quieren es, porque ya he dicho antes que entendían que Estados Unidos no era un Estado legítimo, ¿no? Que era un Estado colonial y un imperio.
Oh shit, there we go again. How you doing, Mr. Officer? Say what? Yeah, I got the passport here. What happened? Wait. Hold up. Where you taking me? Are you serious? Are you fucking serious? Yo, I got my passport, nigga. Chill. What? Oh shit.
Ya, paren de hacer maldad por ser la autoridad. Nos quieren controlar con su abuso de poder. Somos la juventud, no somos como tú. Siente la multitud del pueblo.
Nuestra misión se acentúa, la división continúa. Son como una grúa, todo lo controlan, todo se evalúa. Si lo licúas no saldrá nada importante, no es edificante ver cómo son de recalcitrantes normalmente.